The door to CJ's bedroom swung open dramatically. An enormous black figure kind of glided into the room. You gotta be fucking kidding me, I said. This motherfucker was tall, 6.5 foot at least, with a black cloak covering his entire body and a cowl obscuring the face. Over one shoulder he carried an ancient-looking scythe with a long, gnarled wooden handle and a malevolently sharp blade. As he glided towards us, I caught a glimpse into those shadowy folds and felt the hair on the back of my neck stood up. There was no getting around it. This motherfucker was death, looking like he walked straight out of a tarot card. "I am death," announced Death. "Yeah, no fucking shit you are." I turned to the cat and mouthed, "This guy for real?" And the cat nodded. "You know, it's weird," I said, looking at the apparition. "I guess I just didn't expect him to be so... Suppose I figured death wouldn't be so cliched. After all, it was the dawn of the new millennium. Maybe I'd expected a modern makeover like that shitty Brad Pitt movie I saw." Most disconcerting, however, was the voice. It wasn't a voice that resonated with chilling power. It was cold, sure, you could visualize the icy particles forming between the words. It was a kind of insincere drone I'd associate with a tech support guy or a local newsreader, not a terrible emissary from another plane. And the capper, he had an American accent. Death was an American, which made a kind of sense, I suppose. Death sat opposite us. He was a man of few words, and his breath sounded like the wind whistling through cobwebby pipes. I turned to the cat. "Hey, listen," I said, with an ingratiating smile. "I'm kind of dope sick, man, and I was only stopping by to see if I could borrow some money from CJ, and I'm actually meant to be meeting someone downtown, like, right now. And this dude can get kind of pissy if I'm late, you know?" "So fucking what?" "Well, it's just if you want me to stay, and that's totally cool. Whatever you say, I was just thinking maybe while you're waiting, you might be able to, you know, front me a little. Hate to ask, but I'm really sick, man." The cat in the hat shook his head in disbelief. "You're sitting between a pissed-off drug dealer and death himself, homie, and you're asking for credit? If I were you, I'd keep my fucking mouth shut." I tried to keep quiet, but it proved impossible in light of the situation. Questions tugged at my sleeve like a gaggle of persistent hawkers in an Arab bazaar. "So hey there, Death, I was just wondering." The cowl turned towards me and I see the infinite darkness beyond. "So what happens to CJ, man? I mean, you're here for him? Like, today?" He silenced my nervous babbling with a wave of a skeletal hand. "I'd taken him today. Overdose," Death said. "Overdose? Interesting." Started to wonder if my old buddy CJ had OD'd because he'd made the buy from Gordo without me. As I mulled this over, my face darkened. "It's what a selfish prick gets," I heard myself think, sneaking around, getting high without me. I pushed the thought away. CJ was my best friend after all. "So," I asked, "you're just going to sit around and wait for him to show up? Then what happens?" "Then I take him," Death said. "I have 14 more in Hollywood to see today. Your asshole friend is making me late." The cat leans forward, suddenly interested. "Yo, D, one thing I don't get, there's like 1 million motherfuckers dying every day at least, right? So how come you've got time to be sitting around this prick's apartment just waiting for him to show up? Don't you got other people to ice?" "Death is legion," Death said, with a touch of melodrama. "Death is everywhere." "So you're saying it's a done deal? Like CJ is going to fucking overdose and just hasn't happened yet because he's running late?" Death made a vaguely affirmative noise. "And basically CJ is as good as dead." "He is dead. He just doesn't realize it. The die has been cast." I nodded slowly and then looked at the cat. From his put-out expression, I knew he'd caught my drift. I grinned and asked him, "So what the fuck are you hanging around for? Dead man can't settle debts." The cat spluttered indignantly. "Fuck that, homie. That motherfucker's into me for $3,000. I ain't leaving till he coughs up." "Well, CJ's already dead, man. Death's sitting right there. What are you going to do, threaten him?" I could see the cat doing furious mental calculations, his face darkening. He grabbed the gun and shoved me aside with it, addressing Death directly. "Listen, Death, I ain't looking to start no shit with you, and we're cool. But this fool's got a point. I got to get my money first. You can't be taking this junkie fuck until he pays me what he owes. It's only fair. His voice shot up at the end, making the final statement more of a question than a demand. And I began chuckling. CJ ain't gonna give you shit. That gun ain't gonna scare him, not with Death sitting in the fucking armchair. The cat looked earnestly at Death. Let's make a deal, man. Maybe you could, I don't know, split for a while, just while I beat the money out of the prick, then he's all yours. Death doesn't make deals. Death pointed a long bony finger at the cat. Death is non-negotiable. I found myself enjoying the cat's discomfort. I started peppering Death with questions. It's like, you know when everybody's going to die, right? Of course. You even like me and this guy? Everybody. I mulled this for a moment before jamming a thumb in the cat's direction. So what happens to him? Motherfuck! The cat jumps out of his seat as if trying to stop the question from landing, but it's too late. He dies from a gunshot wound in 2 years and 17 days' time. The cat seemed to collapse into himself for a moment before recovering enough to bleat. Who the fuck fires a bullet, man? Hey, you can't ask him that, I said. That's like against the rules or something, right, Death? The fuck you know about the rules, shithead? He said Death's non-negotiable. If he tells you, you could try and change it or some shit. Yeah, but... The cat trailed off as the various logical strands of the argument worked themselves into a knot. Shit, man, I said, with a sympathetic smile. Comes with the territory, I guess. Tough profession. You better keep your mouth closed, dickweed. Otherwise this dude's gonna have 2 jobs to do. It is not his time, Death said. That comes soon enough. The cat broke into a malicious grin. Fucking bet it does. What happens to this prick? Do you really have to ask? I coughed self-consciously and rubbed the track marks on my forearms. Everybody's got to go sometime, I supposed. If you're going to check out, at least check out doing something you love. My motto. A pensive silence fell over our assembled company. Pondering our fates. Listen, Death, the cat said after a while, hear me out. I was here first. I mean, that's got to count for something, be reasonable. I've got 2 little girls to feed. That counts for nothing, Death said. Your family's of no concern to me. The cat let out a defeated sigh before slumping into the couch. I gave him a nudge. Hey man, can I go now? I felt my guts knotting and unknotting ominously. I'm gonna shit my pants if I don't fix soon. Shut the fuck up and stay put. We ain't done, homie. He turned to plead with Death. Come on, man. There's got to be something we can do. Let's make a deal. Why don't you flip a coin or something, I asked, looking between Death and the cat. Fucking dope, sir. You understand? I need to get the fuck out of here like yesterday. Death seemed to consider this suggestion. You are suggesting a wager to determine the fate of the junkie. Whatever you want to call it, man. Hey, this junkie cocksucker's talking sense, the cat said. I'm down if you are. A game of chance to determine the fate of the one you call CJ. Death said grandly. Fuck yeah, let's do it, homie. So Death reaches a bony hand into his robe and produces this fancy-looking game board covered in black and white squares. The cat's eyes narrow to slits. What the fuck, dude? You want to play Chinese checkers? This is a chessboard, Death said, sounding irritated. Chess? I don't know how to play chess, man. It's got to be something we both know how to play. So the cat rummages in his pockets and pulls out a pair of well-worn dice. We're going to shoot bones. That's my motherfucking game. Craps. What do you say, D? Death nodded slowly, then turned to me. Is this agreeable to you? Now, this caught me off guard. Me? Shit, I don't know. Yo, the cat said, who gives a fuck what this faggot thinks? He ain't playing. Ignoring him, Death said, as you came to this place for CJ, you should also have the opportunity to determine his fate. This is bullshit, the cat protested. Total fucking bullshit. This is between me and you. Death nodded towards me. What will it be? Now the cat taps me on the shoulder with his pistol. All right, you win, motherfucker, he said. We're straight. Just get the fuck out of here before I change my mind. But he said I could play. CJ is my best friend. I owe it to him to at least try. Motherfucking junkie cocksucker. The cat pulls something from his pocket and holds it up for me to see. It's a large baggie of rocky off-white powder. It has to be a couple of grams of whatever it was at least. I leaned in for a closer look, and as I did, the cat began making his pitch. This here's a real deal. Got it in special for a client. He's, let's just say, little well-known, high roller. It's the only dope he'll touch. None of that bullshit Mexican black tar you lot are fucking with. This comes straight from the Golden Triangle. From the factory, to the asshole, to me. No cuts, no bullshit, 3 grams of pharmaceutical-grade number 4 heroin. And if you want it, it's yours. I reached for it, but the cat yanked it out of reach. Nah, if you want it, then you're gone. You leave the games to the big boys. I stared at the baggie hungrily. It all boiled down to a binary choice. CJ or the dope. 1 in 3 chance to save my best friend from a terrible fate, or the certainty of a baggie of the kind of high-quality dope I'd only heard whispered rumors of from the ancient dope fiends who remembered the glory days of paragoic and opium tincture. A long-lost world where a man could get as high as he liked without some nosy motherfucker making trouble for him. A world that vanished forever once Harry Anslinger came along to found the DEA and fuck shit up for everybody. I swallowed hard. As far as decisions go, it was no decision at all. Pleasure doing business with you, I said, pocketing the dope. Cool, the cat said. Now fuck off. I got to my feet, giving Death a little bow, and gave a little wave to the cat in the hat. Been a pleasure, boys, I said. Guess I'll see you around. The cat made a whooping sound and began shaking the dice in his hand, giving them a little blow for good luck. As I crept out of CJ's place, I heard them bouncing across the coffee table as the cat screamed encouragement. Outside, the sky was clear and brilliant. The world seemed utterly oblivious to the fate of my friend. I wondered absently who would win. In a way, it didn't matter much. Death or death on credit were the only options CJ really had to work with. You might feel my decision to take the dope was selfish or callous even, but the simple truth is this. When you've got a habit like mine, free will is an illusion. That's why I couldn't stay mad at CJ over him scoring from Gordo without me. Of course he did, poor bastard. If the situation were reversed, I'd have done the same fucking thing. It ain't right, and it certainly ain't nice, it just is. I'm a junkie, and while I'm using, my habit is non-negotiable. This is the truth. Love, honesty, a sense of morality, and all of that stuff that determines a person's basic character, for an addict like me, is an unaffordable luxury. And the worst part is I can see my actions clearly, even as I'm doing the awful thing that will alienate my friends or make my mother cry or inflict deep emotional pain upon the only woman I've ever loved. The shame and the guilt and the self-loathing are almost unbearable, but there's no stopping it once the wheels are in motion. All you can do is file down the sharpest edges with more smack, more booze, more lies, more, until the day you either say fuck it and get clean once and for all, or you walk in to find death playing craps with your heroin dealer to determine who gets the pink slip on your soul. As I pondered the rights and wrongs of what happened, I stopped in my tracks, coming across an incredible sight. Someone's pet dog, one of those fruity, twitchy miniature numbers that are so popular around here. It was well-groomed and all trussed up in an ostentatious ruby collar, which had the name Butch in diamante. Most likely Butch had got out from the yard of some sickeningly rich Hollywood queen who kept him on a diet of filet mignon and shrimp. And now the pampered little bastard was out of his velvet prison and on a degenerate bender. He seemed to be on some kind of wild, degenerate sexual rampage. I nearly tripped over Butch while he was up on his hind legs furiously fucking a dead skunk. The thing had been recently run over and the contents of the skull were splattered all over the asphalt in a brilliant explosion of reds and purples, and its withered tongue hung comically from a shattered jaw. And the glassy, expressionless eyes seemed to somehow register this final indignity being visited upon him by Butch, who screwed the mangle roadkill with piston-like thrusts, making these awful little squeaking noises. I was a few feet from this awful spectacle, unable to turn my eyes away, even as my repulsion grew. Jesus, Butch was really going at it, despite the heat. Suddenly there was a blur of movement in my peripheral vision, something dark and fast that came flying out from under a nearby dumpster. It took me a moment to realize what the blur was. It was, in fact, a half-starved and rather mangy-looking coyote. Poor Butch. The little skunk fucker was totally unaware of what was happening until it was too late. In a flash, the coyote was on him, and with a terrible snap of a savage, drooling jaw, it clamped its teeth into Butch's neck and began dragging him back to the dumpster. As I watched Butch go, with a shiver of revulsion, I could see the poor bastard's tiny, bright red cock sticking out of his fur like a little bit of lipstick. Butch was too shocked to put up a fight, allowed himself to be dragged back to the dumpster with a look of startled amazement on his face. In the moments before they disappeared from view, Butch's eyes met mine, as if silently pleading for an intervention. And then, just like that, they were both gone. Only Butch's agonized yelps and whines gave any clue to what was unfolding in that terrible, shadowy place. Butch's yelps soon fell silent, until all that remained was the coyote's gulping and slobbering as he feasted on the poor animal. Adios, Butch. He died doing what he loved, which I suppose is the best any of us can hope for. I turned my gaze back to the skunk, lying impassively in the middle of the street. A fat fly circled once, twice above it, then plopped lazily onto the mashed skull. As it settled down to eat, I turned my eyes away. Jesus, what a lousy, God-forsaken day this was. It seemed that death was everywhere. I walked on. Thank you.